2. Evil. Evil. What is the famous evil? People do not understand the universal dimension of evil. Everything that is related to evil is somehow related to the phenomenon of the penetration of light into the lower worlds. This means that as soon as light begins to penetrate the lower worlds that were created by Lucifer for evolution, evil begins to be perceptible. Then we must first understand that as soon as the light descends into lower planes, what we humans know on the material plane is a resultant, an effect of this penetration. Evil is much larger than one can imagine, much more mechanical than one can imagine, and much more hidden than one can imagine. In terms of human experience, evil is known as the culminating factor in the penetration of light into the lower worlds. Evil on our planet, on the material level, is the end result. It is the terminus of its movement, from the movement of light to its expression in man. At the level of your experience, because of the fact that you undergo, without realizing it, the penetration of light on the lower planes, and that you do not understand the cosmic dimensions of evil, for you people, it is a value that you attribute to any action, but this evil is very secondary to the evil that comes from the penetration of light in the lower worlds. If you do not understand the laws of evil, if you do not understand the laws of the penetration of light into the lower worlds, you will never understand the nature of evil on the material level beyond the limits of your own moral experiences, which are conditioned, for historical evolutionary reasons, by either religion or the general opinion of your society. So that the evil that you can experience on a personal level, in relation to men, can appear to you evil, because your conception of evil has been distorted by moral values that can often and too often also be part of evil. So that at some point, you are absolutely unable to separate true evil from false evil. And because of this situation, you are helping to continue this false evil, without realizing that the true evil has not been stopped from the planetary consciousness. I have already given you examples in the seminars of what I call a false evil, an evil that results from the glorification in our society of certain values, which in reality come from true evil but are not understood as such, because man is totally unaware of the laws of light and also unaware of the laws of will that are directly related to the factor of the penetration of light into the lower worlds. For example, when I say to you, get organized to make your life easier and easier. When I tell you what blocks your evolution, what makes you unhappy, what delays your development, put the axe in it. What does that mean? It means that social values, which are in fact false, although they are socially or generally accepted, these values, one day, you will understand that they are part of evil. Because these values prevent you from exercising on a material level, as an individual, as a person, as a soul, with an ego, with a personality, these values prevent you from exercising your will. But what is your will? Your will, when the strength of this will comes from the soul, passes through the ego, crosses the personality, this will allows you to stop evil. If you are on the material level, there is only one way to stop evil, it is through the constant and developed use of your will. Because once you use your true will, the strength that comes from the soul penetrates the ego, passes through the personality. When you use this will, at that moment, you allow the energies of the soul to pass through the dense planes of matter created by the Luciferic forces, and return to the light. It is very important that the energies of the soul return to the light. If they do not return to light, these energies are encapsulated on the planes of matter created, and are used to create what are called forms. And it is precisely in these forms that man is imprisoned. Then, these forms accumulate for centuries and centuries, and eventually, we end up with a situation such as we have today, a world karma that will soon collapse us on our heads. It is very serious, the problem is very serious. And people don't realize it. You think, you people, because you are spiritual, because you are good, because you are fine, because you are good, because you help everyone, because you think you are helping world karma. What you're really doing is softening global karma. It is not a question of softening world karma, it is a question of destroying it completely. There is only one force in man that can destroy karma. First, his personal karma, then later, the world karma in relation to the forces of light. And that is by will, by pure will, which is the penetration into man of the forces of the soul. As long as you cannot act at that level, at least understand the real aspect of that level, you will still be, despite yourself, prisoners of cosmic evil, not to mention planetary evil. The difference between cosmic evil and planetary evil is that cosmic evil is necessary for evolution, because without cosmic evil, in other words, without the material density of luciferic energies, worlds would not have been created. So the repulsion of luciferic matter against light is a normal phenomenon. Then cosmic evil is evil, in the sense that it is repulsive to light. So cosmic evil is normal. But planetary evil is no longer normal, because planetary evil is not created and caused by luciferic forces, but is caused by human ignorance. And human ignorance is caused by the unconscious ego's attachment to all possible and imaginable forms that we live, that we know, and that are part of the evolution, or rather the involution, of humanity. The forms that make us prisoners of energy, these forms undermine our will. That's why man has no will. The forms are so powerful, so stirred up our emotions, so stirred up our mental, that the soul, the forces of the soul, cannot pass through, descend into the human experience and return to the light. You may say, this is good, then this is fine, then this is wonderful, but at some point in your life, you're going to have to know if this is really good, really fine, and then really wonderful. Because until you know if it's really fine, well, then wonderful, you're going to continue to propagate and create forms, and then it goes on and on and on and on. So if you go into the astral, if you have the ease of going into these worlds, you will find in these worlds an unimaginable collection of all the thoughts that have formed humanity since its arrival on planet Earth. It's a real chivalry. The astral, I have nothing against the astral. I have nothing against any of the plans that have been created. But the plans that are contaminated because of human ignorance, the plans that strongly serve for the continuation and perpetuation of evil whose dimensions you do not know, the plans that serve to hallucinate human intelligence, these plans must be eliminated from the human experience. As long as the individual is not able to free himself from the energies of these planes because he is a prisoner of forms, evil will continue. Cosmic evil will remain in domination over planetary evil. I have nothing against cosmic evil. The lower worlds that were created for reasons that I will explain later. But the planetary evil that results from man's ignorance, this evil must eventually cease. Because man can never reach the levels of consciousness to which he is entitled if he is influenced, affected, infected by the forms of energy that contain the possibilities of planetary evil and that completely worsen man's experience. There, you start to suffer from the doubt, some of you. What is doubt? Doubt is the resistance of your ego contaminated by the forms created by planetary evil against the penetration of the energies of the soul. That's the doubt. You are so contaminated that it is a disgusting thing. It's a nauseous thing, then you don't know, then you don't realize, then it's going to take you a long time to realize it. That's why it's going to take you a long time to get past the doubt. When you are beyond doubt, planetary evil will be impossible in your consciousness. And cosmic evil will no longer be used to delay your evolution. Listen carefully, the doubt is the razor that will cut the hair on your head. Because your head is trapped in forms. You will one day understand that your little esoteric foolishness, then your little occult foolishness, then your search in unknown lands, is not the formula you need to destroy planetary evil. It is a formula that you use to spiritualize your being by using more and more spiritual forms, higher and higher in vibration. But don't forget one thing, they are forms. Whether you take any form, they are forms, then until you are free of forms, you will have no access to the light of the supramental consciousness. That's impossible. So that one day, you will understand that esotericism and then occultism are all part of the philosophies of man, and that they generate highly spiritual, highly philosophical forms, but which must eventually be overcome because in light, truth does not exist. Truth is part of the polarity of forms. Are you going to put it in your head once and for all? Truth is part of the polarity of forms. Then evil uses truth to perpetuate on the material level the confusion of forms in man's mind. So that men, religions, any systems possess the truth at the expense of other systems. And what does that create in the planetary consciousness? It creates conflicts, it creates wars, it creates fights. In the universal consciousness there is no war, there is no conflict, then there is no struggle. Because there is no truth, there is simply reality. And the reality is not polarized, it's out of good and evil. Understand it once and for all. As long as you attach yourself to the values, forms or values of the forms of your small societies, your organizations, your circles, your groups, your social connections, whether political, religious, esoteric or occult, you will be imprisoned in a form. And this is part, whether you like it or not, I don't care, but it is part of the action of cosmic evil on planetary evil, and this in turn generates a perpetuity of planetary evil. As long as you are not totally, absolutely, individuals, men, beings who function in a totally autonomous way, who will seek knowledge in themselves, who are not dictated knowledge by others, you will not be outside the forms and you will automatically be part of the mechanical laws of cosmic evil and planetary evil, whether you want it or not. When you believe me, you are part of cosmic evil and planetary evil. When you know for yourself what I know, then you are in evolution. Evil no longer has power over you. But as soon as you believe, as soon as you are attached to a form by belief, even if it is only a belief that is related to my activities, you are in planetary evil. So it goes far away from planetary evil, then it goes far away from cosmic evil, then you are far from understanding all its aspects. That is why it is important for you people to live it out to the end, in order to unlock the energies of the soul that will give you a very powerful will on the form, that will generate in you a particular energy that will serve you as protection. People want to protect themselves on the left and then on the right. I hear that all the time from people who want to protect themselves. What are they protecting themselves from? They protect themselves from nothing. They think they are protecting themselves. And thinking that they are protecting themselves, they are protecting themselves, but basically they are not protecting themselves from anything. I will explain what I mean. When you make rituals in the astral, when you use the spiritual astral to protect yourself, what you are really doing is reducing the density of the shapes to allow more light to penetrate. But the forms are always there, so your protection is never complete. Your protection will be total when the energy of the soul can penetrate directly all the planes, descend to the lower planes and create in your ego a very powerful will that will never allow you to be influenced by the forms. At that time, you will be protected. At that moment, nothing can shake or affect you, because you will be in the light of that energy. We are so ignorant men, so ignorant that the real vision of things is impossible for us. As soon as we face an aspect of reality that shocks the forms of which we have been prisoners for years, we suffer from doubt. It shows how dangerous we are in a situation, and it makes us understand why the planet, today, our civilization, is where it is now. That's normal, and whose fault is that? It is the fault of ignorance. And who is suffering from it? Man. You people. Evil is so powerful, the intelligence of evil is so great, the material organization of forms is so advanced in its involution, that only a man who is in contact with the forces of light can discern what is good and what is not good, with a very sharp knife. But you are afraid to use your sharp knife, because you do not have the will of the soul. So what are you doing? You make compromises, then compromise, then compromises, then compromises. So that, for years, for whole lives, you live the lives of others that are already evil and that already come from an evil, and you perpetuate that evil. At a certain point in your life, you try to understand, you try to start in a certain direction. There it works as long as the forms allow you to shine your pill, but as soon as it is enough or you have to make a high jump, a real jump, to get rid once and for all of the forms, there you block, you get seasick. You want simplistic formulas, there are no simplistic formulas. Formulas are part of the forms, it is also part of the evil. There are no simplistic formulas. You will have to, at some point, if you are going to go through it, you will have to realize at some point what is universally realized and what is not disputed, but what is known. When you are at that stage, you will see that evil cannot reach you in any way. And you'll see from looking back how ignorant you were. Then at that point, you will want to help other people out of the same situation in which you are swimming, and you will understand why it is almost impossible, because you will not have the word to generate enough energy in these people's minds to make them understand what they have to understand. But at least you will have enough personal understanding so that these people can turn their eyes a little bit to something that is not affected by the forms. When I tell you that words are prisons, when I tell you that words can be used in all kinds of ways, when I tell you that evil will use everything to prevent man from reaching a sufficiently high level of consciousness, to completely free himself from his influence, I am serious. When I tell you that evil will use everything, I say everything. From the most spiritual to the most infamous, from the best to the worst, evil will use everything, because cosmic evil uses the form to generate its domination on the planet Earth. It is in the cosmic function of evil to dominate the evolving spirits. Because evil, that is the condition that allows light to penetrate and create a negative memory, is part of the very structure of the lower worlds. The lower worlds need a negative memory, a memory that is linked to time, to perpetuate, in absolute spaces, the reality. While the soul, the forces of light, do not need memory to evolve, since the forces of light are fed directly from the force. On the other hand, everything that is directly or indirectly related to luciferic action in absolute spaces needs memory to continue its evolution. Understand that cosmic evil generates the conditions that later allow the manifestation of planetary evil. That planetary evil is directly linked to human ignorance. That man is ignorant because he is a prisoner of forms, and that forms are maintained in their continuity by the forces of the ego that are located in planetary consciousness. As long as the ego has not rid itself of these forces, as long as the ego has not freed itself from the emotion that is linked to the forms, as long as the ego is not fed enough by the forces of the soul to develop a center of gravity that is a center of will, this ego there is unable to escape these forms and therefore perpetuates without wanting it, even if it is an individual of very high quality, very spiritual, very good, this individual perpetuates cosmic evil. You want a ruler so you can check where the evil is, I'll give you one. And then it's very simple, because everything I give you is very simple. It's stupid, but it's not easy, but it's simple. When you have to do something in your life, if you feel a slight vibration against it and you do it anyway, then you are in cosmic evil because you let yourself be influenced. As soon as you let yourself be influenced, you are in cosmic evil for whatever reason, even if it is for good reasons, you are in cosmic evil. As soon as you let yourself be influenced. Because what happens is that when you let yourself be influenced, you submit to the will of others, to the influences of others, and those influences and that will come from the energy stored in the forms, of which they themselves are prisoners. Then you become a link in the jungle. It is when you realize that you begin to develop your will. A real will, a will based on the penetration of the soul's energy into your ego and to your personality. It's an inner vibration. It is an inner vibration that gives you direction. If your ego, for one reason or another, refuses this energy, at that moment, it bends to influences, and automatically participates in cosmic evil. If you establish this phenomenon, on a world scale, you can easily understand that the planet today is totally controlled by cosmic evil. And the planetary evil is a continuation of this evil on a human scale. That's why I tell you, as soon as you let yourself be influenced by the least bit. And one day, when you are strong, when the soul energy penetrates, that is when you will easily understand what I mean. Because there will come a time when, with the opening of the senses, this energy will descend, will penetrate more and more, and one day you will realize that in everyday life, there are 50,000 ways to be influenced, and each of these ways you can perceive them. Because at that level, your consciousness will be too high for you not to be warned. And as soon as you are aware of it, as soon as the energy will pass through your centers, you will activate the force that comes from the energy, so that you will develop what I call the real will. And it is this energy, over time, that will transmute your bodies and elevate you above the form. When I say to elevate you above the form, I mean to elevate you to a point of consciousness such that you will no longer be influenced by the form. You can use the form. You can use it, in this form, but you will not be its slave. And when you are no longer a slave to it, to the form, cosmic evil will have no power over you and you will be totally free from planetary evil. So that you will no longer be able to act and accumulate above your heads what you call karma. Because everything you do will be right. And everything you do will be right because it will be determined by the energy of the soul, instead of being determined by the form that reduces your will, weakens your real power of action and makes you slaves to cosmic evil and makes you subject to planetary evil in return. So, if you are trying to understand the evil, if you are trying to realize it, don't go too far, don't go too far, don't worry, it's very close to you, it's very close to your actions. It is hidden because you do not see it, because you do not yet know its mechanics, but there will come a day when evil in its purest essence will be discernible, every time you will be in contact with its manifestation through forms. It is not the stupidities of men that are the most obvious, that are the most dangerous.